Hello and welcome to this lecture presented by the Institute of Certified Finance Technicians. This lecture covers the part of the syllabus Bookkeeping Level 1, How to Contextualize a Bookkeeping. So we continue on with the lecture. First of all, we need to look at the learning objectives, and the aim of this particular presentation is to enable the learner to understand the relationship between bookkeeping, accounting and financial management. What's really important as you progress through the syllabus is when you are exposed to a definition to make sure that you take ownership of that definition, as there's no point in rote learning it. You need to be able to fully understand the difference between these three aspects of a financial system so you'll be able to explain it to a person who is from a non-financial background. So we look at some detail in relation to what bookkeeping is in the first part of the syllabus, and you also need to know how it's linked with accounting and financial management. The learning outcomes at the end of this particular short lecture are to enable the learner to define bookkeeping, accounting and financial management. So that will give you a clear understanding as to what each aspect of the financial system is covered by each one of these particular areas. And then we're going to look at the ability to enable the learner to know and explain the components of bookkeeping. So in relation to bookkeeping, there's a certain set structure to it, and you have to be fully aware of what that structure is to fully understand how to utilize it and to operate a bookkeeping system. So those are our aim and our learning objectives for this particular lecture. So let's start off then and have a look at putting bookkeeping in context. Bookkeeping is the beginning of the financial system in any given organization, and it's where raw data is collected and processed for the first time, and then we move on to the accounting system, which gets that raw data and creates it into information, and then that information is used as part of financial management. So enable us to have a better understanding, let's look at a few definitions concerning these particular areas. So bookkeeping involves recording the financial transactions of an organization. So organizations are involved in a variety of financial transactions on a daily basis, and all this data, I should say, needs to be captured within the bookkeeping system. And as we progress through the syllabus, you'll see how that actually is done. So bookkeeping catches the raw data. Then accounting involves using the recorded financial transactions from the bookkeeping records to create financial information. And that financial information is produced in the primary financial statements. And these are the income statement, which is also known as a profit and loss account, the balance sheet, which is also known as a statement of financial position, and the cash flow statement. And we will be looking at in some detail these primary financial statements throughout the syllabus. Then we look at financial management. What does that involve? Financial management involves utilizing financial information created from accounting records to facilitate financial control and decision making. So the information that's contained within the primary financial statements enable financial control to be exercised over an organization. And then it will also facilitate the ability to make decisions regarding on resource allocation within a particular organization. So the starting point of the financial system of any given organization is bookkeeping. Then the next step in the process is accounting. And then after that is financial management, which is concerned with financial control and decision making. So this is a very important image we have in front of us here that shows you how bookkeeping can be contextualized. Bookkeeping here covers off four main areas, and we're going to look through each one of these individually in a few moments. So bookkeeping is produced by taking information from source documents and recording them in the books of original entry. Now you'll also find that in bookkeeping and finance in general, there are many things called synonyms, words that mean the same. So a lot of the documents we're referring to may have more than one name, which can get a little bit confusing at the beginning. But I'll endeavor to keep repeating them so it'll make it easier for you. So books of original entry are also known as books of prime entry, just in case you come across that term at some other stage. And then the information from the books of original entry is then used to populate the books of double entry. And then when all the entries are put into the books of double entry by using debits and credits, which we'll cover later on, the balances are transferred onto a trial balance, which is just simply a summary of all these transactions held here. This really is what we'll be covering on the bookkeeping course from the syllabus in level 1 and level 2, and then in the other parts of the syllabus, the accounting and finance section, we'll be covering off these two areas. But just to let you know and be aware that the bookkeeping system follows on to the accounting system, and the accounting system endeavors to create information from all this raw data that's contained in these particular items here. So that is in relation to the production of primary financial statements. I mentioned those before. There are three: the income statements, the balance sheet, and the cash flow statements. After those are being produced, we can get involved with financial management, which involves decision making and control. So that's how you put bookkeeping in context. It's the starting point of the financial system and records of a organization or a business. So let's have a look in a bit more detail in relation to bookkeeping. So we're going to have a little look here at this source documents. So we need to ask the questions, what are source documents? And the simple answer is maybe a little bit long, but it covers and encapsulates virtually every aspect of source documents. Answer: a source document are documents that detail financial and non-financial transactions relating to such matters as sales and purchase of products and or services and other types of financial transactions such as loans, taxation, capital. So think about that for a moment. A source document could be simply when you sell a product to a customer and you generate a one-page document, you write the word sales invoice on it, detail the product you sold, put down the monetary value and give it to a customer. That is a source document that you've created and issued to a customer. So you need to have a record of all those transactions in order to ascertain what your overall sales are for a particular period. Then in relation to the purchase invoices that you receive from your suppliers, they'll also give details of the products and or services that you purchased. So these are source documents. An example of a non-financial source document will be something such as a delivery docket, which simply identifies the products that were delivered, but there will be no monetary value. And we'll look in a while as to how you would use such things to create internal controls within an organization. So that's source documents, the absolute beginning of your bookkeeping system, because it's the information contained within the source documents that is going to be used to record the data into your books of prime entry or books of original entry. So that's where we're going next. So the books of original entry, what are they? So the answer is the books of original entry are books where financial data are recorded for the first time. The majority of the financial data recorded in the books of prime entry is taken from source documents. And the reason why it's mentioned that it is the majority of them is because sometimes you need to create transactions internally, where we'll cover that off later on. And when I say create internally, it means that you don't necessarily have a source document, so you need to create the transaction based on some financial metric that you need to incorporate into your books of prime entry. So let's have a little look on the next section, books of double entry. So what are they? So we've talked about the source documents, we've talked about the books of prime entry, and now we're on the books of double entry. So what are they? The books of double entry are records of financial transactions recording using double entry, comprising of ledger accounts, classified into any of the following categories: assets, liabilities, income, and expenditure. And again, we're just at the preliminary stage where we're trying to contextualize bookkeeping. We won't be going into all the detail just yet as to how the records are produced and what they look like. But suffice to know that the books of double entry means that every single financial transaction is recorded twice, once as a debit, once as a credit, that's the process. And each item can either fall into one of those four categories: assets, liabilities, income, and expenditure. And we'll also need to have very detailed definitions of what these represent, because that is the absolute fundamentals upon which a financial record system is based. So we look at the trial balance, and the question again is, what is a trial balance? And the answer is, a trial balance is a list of all the balances noted in the books of double entry. So in the books of double entry, there may be dozens, hundreds, thousands, or even millions of transactions. And all that would not give us much of a picture unless we could summarize it in some way. And that's what the trial balance does for us. And as we progress through the syllabus, you'll be asked to get the information from source documents and record them up to the trial balance. So you'll see exactly where this process begins and ends. So here's our summary. The aim was to enable the learner to understand the relationship between bookkeeping, accounting, and financial management. So at this stage, you should be aware that bookkeeping is the starting point of the financial system of any particular organization. And it leads on to the accounting, and then that leads on to financial management. You should also be aware that bookkeeping comprises of 4 elements. It starts with source documents. You need to know what a source document is. And then you need to know that the information contained in those source documents is transferred into the books of original entry. The figures then are transferred from the books of original entry into the books of double entry, and then the balances of the books of double entry is summarized in the books of the trial balance. That's what you need to know at this particular stage. So at this stage, you should be able to have a go at the micro task, and that involves downloading the 01BKL1 micro task and having a bash at those particular questions, and then comparing your answers to the solution, which you can also download. So have a go at those, see how you get on. If you have any problems, you may need to revisit this lecture.